The war between humans and the alien race called the Valari had turned planets into ashes. For 5 long years, fire had rained from the skies, and both sides had forgotten why the war began. All that remained was revenge and orders. Captain Raylan Ward had stopped asking questions a long time ago. He was a soldier, one of the last humans left on the front line. His ship had crashed on Vela 9, a dead world filled with smoke, broken metal, and silence. But that silence was broken by something he didn't expect. A cry. At first, he thought it was just the wind cutting through the wreckage. But then he heard it again, soft, trembling, afraid. It wasn't a machine. It was alive. And it was calling for help. Raylan lifted his rifle, scanning the fog. His armor sensors beeped faintly, life signs, weak but real. He followed the sound through the broken remains of a Valari war transport, its wings torn apart, smoke still rising. Inside, he saw it, a small creature, glowing faintly blue beneath the dust. It was a Valari child. Her silver skin shimmered in the dim light, her four-fingered hands trembling as she tried to move a heavy beam pinning her leg. Her eyes, large and bright like twin moons, locked onto Raylan. She didn't scream. She just looked at him, afraid, but also hopeful. Raylan froze. His orders were clear. No survivors. No mercy. The Valari are the enemy. But something about the child, so small, so fragile, cut through years of war-hardened instinct. He lowered his gun. "Hey, easy," he whispered, stepping closer. The child whimpered, hiding her face. Raylan knelt beside her and tried to lift the metal beam. It wouldn't budge. He gritted his teeth and used his exoarm to push harder. The beam moved just enough for the child to crawl free. Her leg was injured, burned and bleeding with silver-blue blood. She looked at him again, confused. Raylan sighed. "Guess we're both broken now." He opened a compartment on his suit and pulled out a small medical injector. He hesitated. Human medicine wasn't made for alien biology. But leaving her there would mean certain death. He injected a small dose of healing serum into her wound. She gasped, then the bleeding slowed. Her breathing steadied. "Good girl," he murmured. "You're safe now." But he was wrong. The ground trembled. His armor radar blinked, incoming signatures, fast. Valari drones. They had detected the child's life signal, and his. Raylan grabbed the child and sprinted through the ruins. Energy blasts hit the ground behind him, throwing up dust and fire. He jumped behind a half-destroyed wall, pulling the child close. Her small hands clung to his armor, trembling. "Stay quiet," he whispered. The drones circled above, scanning. Their lights flickered across the smoke. Raylan took a deep breath and tossed a flare to the left, a decoy. The drones followed the light, firing into the wrong direction. He ran the opposite way, carrying the child toward his wrecked ship. When he reached the cockpit, he dropped into the pilot's seat and started the engines manually. Sparks flew. The ship groaned but came to life. "Hold on, kid," he said as he buckled her beside him. The ship lifted, rising through clouds of smoke and burning wrecks. For a moment, it felt like freedom. Then, a massive shadow fell over them. Through the glass, Raylan saw it, a Valari warship, descending through the atmosphere. Its hull was enormous, covered in glowing runes. Its cannons aimed directly at him. A deep voice echoed through his comms. "Cold. Angry. Female. Human vessel, you have taken what belongs to the Valari. Return the child, or your planet will burn." Raylan froze. He looked down at the child. She was staring at the voice transmitter, her tiny hand trembling. "Is that your mother?" he asked quietly. She didn't answer, just nodded once. Raylan felt a chill crawl up his spine. He'd just saved the enemy's daughter. And now, the queen of the Valari herself was coming for him. He could surrender, maybe they'd spare him. But one look at the child told him what the queen would really do. They didn't want to save her. They wanted to control her. She was too valuable, too powerful. Raylan gripped the controls. His ship's engines roared. He punched the throttle, diving into the storm clouds below. The warship fired a plasma beam. It sliced past him, lighting up the sky like a burning sun. The shockwave threw his ship sideways. Alarms screamed. Metal cracked. He fought the controls with both hands. "Hold together, girl. Come on," he shouted to the ship. It jerked, sputtered, but didn't fall. He checked the rear sensors. The warship was still following, but slower now, blocked by the storm's interference. They'd lost visual, for now. Raylan exhaled shakily. The child sat silent beside him, eyes wide, hands gripping her seat. He turned to her. "You're safe now. I promise." But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't true. The Valari Queen would not stop. No mother would. He looked out at the endless clouds of red and grey spreading below. He had no base, no command, no allies. Just a wounded alien child and a broken ship. But something inside him, something human, refused to abandon her. He whispered to himself, "If they want her, they'll have to come through me." The child tilted her head, studying him. Her eyes glowed faintly. Then she spoke, her voice small but clear. "Thank you." Raylan froze. She spoke in English. Somehow, she'd learned his words. He gave a small smile. "Guess you're smarter than you look." Outside, thunder rolled through the atmosphere, shaking the ship. Raylan set a new course toward deep space, far from both human and Valari borders. He didn't know where he was going, only that he had to keep her safe. As the ship vanished into the dark sky, a quiet transmission echoed across the galaxy. A voice, cold, commanding, and filled with fury. "Find the human who dared. Bring me the child, alive." And somewhere deep in the storm, a soldier who had lost everything had just started a journey that could change both species forever. The stars stretched endlessly before him, cold, silent, and full of danger. Captain Raylan Ward guided his damaged ship through the empty void, each light blinking weakly on his console. The engines groaned, the oxygen meters flickered, and the navigation system kept warning him to stop. But he couldn't stop. Not while the Valari Queen was hunting him. The child sat beside him, wrapped in a silver thermal blanket. Her large eyes followed the stars outside, full of wonder and sadness. Her name, he had learned from a whisper, was Lyra. She hadn't spoken much since they escaped the Valari warship. But she didn't cry. She didn't panic. She just watched him, studying every move he made, every sound he spoke. Raylan didn't understand her completely. But every time he looked at her, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Hours passed in silence until the ship's radar beeped. Ping. 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 Raylan leaned forward, his stomach tightening. Not again. The screen showed multiple heat signatures, moving fast. Valari hunters. They had found him. He cut the main engines, switching to stealth mode. The ship drifted quietly through space, cold and invisible among the stars. He turned to Lyra. "Stay quiet, okay? Don't make a sound." Lyra nodded. She could sense his fear, and she copied it. Her small hands clutched his jacket. Outside, the shadows of alien ships passed like sharks in deep water, sleek, glowing with blue symbols, scanning for life signs. Raylan held his breath. One wrong signal, and they'd both be dead. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, the radar went silent again. The hunters were gone. Raylan exhaled slowly, leaning back in his seat. "Still alive," he muttered, trying to sound calm. He opened a ration pack and handed a small piece of protein bread to Lyra. She sniffed it first, curious, then took a bite. Her face twisted. "Bitter." Raylan chuckled softly. "Yeah. Human food's not exactly royal cuisine." For the first time, Lyra smiled, small but real. Raylan froze for a second. It was strange how that tiny smile made the cold ship feel warmer. A few hours later, Raylan was repairing the comm system when he noticed something strange. His encrypted signal codes, the ones only human command could use, had been traced. Someone from the human side had pinged his last location. He frowned. How the hell? Then a message appeared on his screen. "Captain Raylan Ward. You are ordered to return immediately. The alien child is property of Earth Command." He stared at the words, his jaw tightening. "Property," he whispered. He turned off the screen, shaking his head. So that was it. He wasn't just hunted by aliens anymore, humans wanted him too. Lyra watched him from the corner. "You angry?" she asked carefully. Raylan forced a small smile. "Just tired, kid." But she wasn't fooled. Her voice was soft, almost sad. "They fear me." He looked at her. "How do you know that?" She touched her chest. A faint blue light shimmered beneath her skin. "I feel things. Minds." Her voice quivered. "They fear what I can do." Raylan stared. "What you can do?" Before he could ask more, the lights flickered. The radar screamed again. This time, it wasn't Valari, it was human ships. "Unbelievable," Raylan muttered, slamming the console. "They found me faster than the aliens did." A hologram appeared, an Earth officer in gray uniform. "Captain Ward," the man said coldly. "Stand down. You've disobeyed direct orders. Release the alien and surrender." Raylan gritted his teeth. "She's just a child. She's not a weapon." "That child," the officer replied, "is the key to ending this war. Return her now." Lyra shrank behind Raylan's chair, trembling. Raylan's voice hardened. "No. I won't hand her over. Not to you. Not to anyone." The officer's expression darkened. "Then you'll be marked as a traitor. God help you, Captain." The hologram vanished. Raylan sat back in silence. The ship shook as he pushed the engines to full thrust. "Hang on, Lyra," he said. "We're not going home." Hours turned into days as they hid in the outer sectors, deep asteroid fields where no radar worked properly. Raylan repaired what he could, using old metal plates and spare wires. Meanwhile, Lyra began to recover. Her strength returned, and so did her curiosity. One night, as Raylan checked the star charts, she walked up to him and pointed at the glowing blue dots on the screen. "Stars, they sing," she whispered. He looked at her, puzzled. "Sing?" She closed her eyes. "I can hear them. They call to each other. Like family." Raylan didn't understand her words, but he understood the feeling. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel alone. He smiled faintly. "Maybe one day you'll teach me how to listen." She giggled softly, a sound so pure it almost hurt. But peace never lasted long in war. The ship sensors picked up something again, a coded Valari transmission. It wasn't nearby. It was a galaxy-wide broadcast. Raylan translated it through his helmet system. "Attention, all Valari forces. The Queen has spoken. The one who returns her child alive will be rewarded with eternal honor. Find the human. Bring me Lyra." Raylan froze. The message was spreading across every communication channel in space. Every mercenary, every bounty hunter, every warship, all of them would now be looking for one man. He muttered under his breath, "They just turned the whole galaxy against us." Lyra looked up at him with wide eyes. "They will hurt you." He smiled sadly. "They'll try." Then she did something unexpected. She placed her small hand over his. A warm glow spread through his armor, repairing tiny cracks in the metal. Raylan blinked in surprise. "What the?" Lyra smiled gently. "I can help." He stared at her in awe. "You just fixed my armor. How?" She tilted her head. "Mother said. I have light inside. I didn't know it could heal." Raylan's mind raced. If she could heal machines, what else could she do? But before he could ask, the ship jolted violently. An explosion rocked the hull. Sirens blared. Something hit them from behind, a bounty ship. Through the viewport, Raylan saw the symbol of a golden serpent painted across a black hull. Pirates. Hired guns. They had been waiting. "Strap in." Raylan shouted. He swung the ship hard to the left, dodging a missile. The blast lit up the darkness like lightning. Metal debris spun past the windows. Lyra cried out, clutching her seat. Raylan's fingers flew over the controls. "Come on, baby, don't fail me now." The engines roared. He dove into an asteroid field, weaving between massive rocks. The bounty ship followed, firing plasma rounds that tore through the dust. An asteroid cracked open in front of them, blue light spilling from its core. Lyra's eyes widened. There. Hide there. Raylan trusted her instinct. He steered the ship straight into the glowing debris, vanishing from radar. The bounty hunters overshot and lost track. Minutes passed in silence again. Raylan's heart pounded. He turned to Lyra. You okay? She nodded, though tears glimmered in her eyes. You hurt? He shook his head. Just scared. The Valari Queen stood at the center of her throne chamber, a massive hall built of living metal and pulsating blue light. The walls breathed with soft hums, reacting to her presence. Her crown shimmered like liquid silver, and her eyes burned with anger and grief. Before her, dozens of Valari generals knelt in silence. The Queen's voice echoed through the hall, cold and full of command. A human has stolen what belongs to me. My daughter, my blood. Find him. Bring her home. And bring the human, alive. The generals bowed lower, their armor clanking in unison. Yes, my queen. The queen turned toward a glowing crystal at the center of the room. Within it, the faint image of Lyra, her missing child, shimmered like a dream. She touched the crystal softly. Lyra, my light. I will not lose you again. Then, her tone hardened. Send the hunters. Activate the crimson signal. Let every Valari across the stars know, the human must be found. And with that command, the greatest hunt in the galaxy began. Far away, on the edge of a forgotten star system, Raylan Ward's ship drifted in silence. He was fixing the outer hull while Lyra sat near the viewport, tracing patterns in the glass with her glowing fingers. It had been 3 days since the bounty attack. Every system on the ship was damaged, but somehow they were still flying. Raylan, Lyra said softly, are we safe now? He tightened a bolt and sighed. Safe is a word I stopped believing in a long time. She tilted her head. Because of war. He nodded. Yeah. War makes you forget what safety feels like. Lyra was quiet for a moment. Then she whispered, my mother started this war. Raylan looked up sharply. What do you mean? Lyra's voice trembled. She said humans took our world, but I saw her memories before we left. She lied. Raylan frowned. Lied. Lyra nodded slowly. She wanted to make Valari strong again. So she told our people that humans were monsters. That they destroyed our cities. Raylan's mind raced. Could it be true? If Lyra was right, then the war wasn't just tragedy, it was built on a lie. But before he could ask more, the radar beeped again. Ping, ping, ping. Something big was coming. Raylan rushed to the cockpit. Not again. He checked the readings, one massive energy signature, descending fast. It wasn't a hunter ship. It was something bigger. Lyra's eyes widened. Mother. The Valari Queen's flagship, a colossal vessel shaped like a silver serpent, had entered the sector. It glowed with stormlight, its weapons humming with power. From its belly, hundreds of smaller ships spread out like birds of prey. Inside the command deck, the Queen stood watching the holographic map. The human ship was a small red dot, fragile, flickering, but alive. You cannot hide forever, human, she whispered. I will find you. She turned to her prime hunter, a towering armored figure with crimson armor. I want him captured, not killed. I will see his face when he answers for his crimes. The hunter bowed. As you command, my queen. Moments later, swarms of Valari ships began scanning the asteroid belt where Raylan was hiding. Inside the wrecked human ship, alarms blared again. Raylan gritted his teeth. They've locked onto us. He turned to Lyra. Strap in, we're moving. The engines screamed as he pushed the throttle. The ship roared out of hiding, weaving through rocks and debris. Valari fighters followed immediately, lasers slicing through the dark. Lyra gasped as explosions flashed around them. They won't stop. I know. Raylan shouted. Hold tight. One blast hit their right wing. Metal tore. Fire burst out. The ship spun violently, alarms howling. Raylan fought the controls, trying to stabilize it. He slammed a button, releasing decoy flares that exploded into false energy signatures. The chasing ships veered off, confused for a moment. That single second was all he needed. He dived toward a nearby moon, dark, rocky, and silent. They crash-landed hard, sliding across the dusty ground until the ship finally stopped with a deafening crash. Smoke filled the cabin. Raylan coughed, pulling Lyra close. You okay? She nodded weakly. Yes. I think so. The hull was cracked. The ship couldn't fly again, not soon, maybe not ever. Raylan cursed under his breath. We're stuck. As night fell across the moon's surface, Raylan built a small camp inside a cave. The air was thin but breathable. He set up a shield generator to hide their heat signatures. Lyra sat beside the flickering firelight, staring at the stars above the cave's mouth. They are still searching, she whispered. Raylan nodded. Yeah. And they won't stop. She turned to him. You saved me, twice. Why? He hesitated, then smiled faintly. Because you were just a kid. And I'm tired of killing kids. Lyra tilted her head. You're not like other humans. He chuckled. Some would say that's a bad thing. She smiled softly. Not to me. For a brief moment, there was peace. The war, the fear, it all felt far away. But outside the cave, the shadows moved. The Queen's hunters had landed. The first explosion came at dawn. Rocks shattered, and energy blasts hit the cave wall. Raylan jumped up, pulling his blaster rifle. Get back, he shouted to Lyra. Dozens of armored figures surrounded the cave, glowing red eyes cutting through the darkness. Their leader, the Crimson Hunter, stepped forward. Human, the alien's voice echoed, deep and mechanical. Surrender the child. You cannot win. Raylan smirked. You'd be surprised. He fired first. The shot hit the hunter's shoulder, sparking a burst of light. The other aliens opened fire. The battle was chaos, dust, flashes, explosions. Raylan moved fast, using the rocks for cover, firing in short bursts. But there were too many. Lyra screamed, Raylan. A plasma blast hit near her. Without thinking, Raylan ran, diving in front of her, taking the hit on his armor. He groaned, pain spreading through his chest. Lyra cried out, touching his armor, and suddenly, a surge of blue light flowed from her hands. The wound closed. The armor repaired itself. Raylan looked at her in shock. You healed me. Her eyes glowed bright white. I won't let them hurt you. She raised her hands. A wave of pure energy burst from her body, throwing every Valari soldier backward. Rocks shattered, fire scattered, and silence filled the air. When the light faded, the hunters were gone. Only dust remained. Raylan stared at her, amazed. What are you, Lyra? She looked down, trembling. I don't know. But Mother said I was born with the power to end wars. Raylan placed a hand on her shoulder. Maybe, we can use it to stop one instead. Far across the stars, the Queen felt the shockwave through her mind. Her daughter's power had awakened. She smiled, a slow, dangerous smile. The sun of the dead moon rose slowly, pale, cold, and red like blood. Dust floated across the rocky land, glowing faintly in the dim light. Raylan Ward sat at the mouth of the cave, repairing what was left of his blaster. Beside him, Lyra still slept, her small hands glowing faintly with strange silver light. He hadn't slept all night. He couldn't. The battle had left deep scars in the land, and in his mind. He kept hearing the Queen's soldiers' voices echoing in the dark. Surrender the child. He looked at Lyra and whispered, not a chance. Hours later, Lyra woke up. She rubbed her eyes and smiled weakly. You didn't sleep again. Raylan shrugged. Didn't have time for dreams. She looked at his face, the dark circles under his eyes. You dream even when you're awake, she said softly. Raylan chuckled. You're getting too wise for your age. She grinned. Mother used to say that too. Then her expression darkened. But she wouldn't smile like you do. Raylan looked out at the horizon, a vast stretch of dust and broken rocks. Somewhere beyond those hills, the Valari Queen was coming. He could feel it. They needed to move. By midday, they had packed what little they had and started walking. The air was thin, the ground cracked. In the distance, small energy storms flashed silently across the sky. Lyra walked behind Raylan, her eyes scanning the strange alien shapes rising from the sand, old machines buried long ago. Raylan, she said, what were humans like before the war? He stopped for a second, thinking. They were dreamers, he said. They built cities that touched the clouds. They wanted peace. But someone always wanted more. More power. Yeah, he said quietly. That's how every war starts. She was silent after that, her small face thoughtful. Then suddenly, her eyes widened. Wait. Something's coming. Raylan reached for his blaster instantly. Where? She pointed to the sky. There. He looked up, and his stomach dropped. A massive shadow moved across the red sun. It was the Queen's flagship. Its engines roared like thunder, its hull reflecting the fire of the dying sun. Dozens of small ships circled it like vultures. Raylan's heart raced. She's here. They ran, fast, across the rough terrain, heading toward a cluster of ruins that might give cover. The first blast hit the ground behind them. Dust exploded upward, burning rocks raining around them. Go, Lyra! Raylan shouted. They dove into the ruins, old alien buildings, half buried in sand. Inside, shadows twisted and whispered, and the air hummed with ancient energy. Raylan pressed his back to a wall, catching his breath. Lyra looked terrified. She's calling me, she whispered. Her eyes glowed faintly. I can feel her voice inside my head. Raylan grabbed her shoulders gently. Listen to me. Don't answer. Whatever happens, you stay quiet. Understand? Lyra nodded, trembling. Meanwhile, high above, the Valari Queen stood at the command deck window, her cloak flowing like liquid night. Her eyes burned with cold fury. My daughter is near, she said softly. I can feel her pulse. The Prime Hunter approached and knelt. Shall we strike, my queen? She shook her head slowly. No. I will go myself. The hunter looked up in shock. You, my queen? Yes. She will not fear me. But the human will learn what fear truly is. She stepped forward, her armor forming around her like liquid crystal, black and silver, edged with light. Her crown folded into a battle mask that glowed faintly. Prepare my descent, she commanded. Moments later, a column of light descended from the ship to the moon's surface. The Queen's feet touched the ground, silent, graceful, deadly. The hunt had become personal. Inside the ruins, Raylan felt the ground shake. He looked toward the entrance. She's here, he muttered. Lyra clutched his hand. She's not angry, she's sad. Raylan frowned. Sad. She doesn't want to hurt me, Lyra said. But she wants you. Raylan tightened his grip on the blaster. Well, she'll have to go through me first. They crept deeper into the ruins, past collapsed walls and broken halls filled with glowing blue stones. Strange carvings marked the walls, symbols older than both human and Valari civilizations. As they moved, a voice echoed softly through the air. Lyra. The Queen's voice, calm, beautiful, haunting. Lyra froze. She's calling again. Raylan whispered, ignore it. Keep moving. But Lyra couldn't. Tears filled her eyes. That's my mother, Raylan. She's crying. Before Raylan could stop her, Lyra stepped into the open corridor. A beam of light shone through the ceiling, and the Queen appeared. For a moment, time stopped. The Queen stood tall, her silver armor glowing faintly in the dust-filled air. Her crown shimmered like starlight. Lyra, she said gently, lowering her weapon. My child. Lyra's voice broke. Mother. Raylan aimed his blaster. Stay back. The Queen looked at him, her gaze sharp as a blade. So you're the human who took her from me. I saved her, Raylan snapped. Your soldiers were ready to kill her. The Queen's eyes darkened. You cannot understand our ways. She is my blood. She belongs with her kind. She belongs where she's safe. The air crackled with tension. Lyra stood between them, crying. Please, she begged, stop fighting. Both of you. But neither moved. Then suddenly, the ruins trembled again, harder this time. The ground split open. A deep, rumbling voice echoed from below. You should not have come here. Raylan turned. What the hell was that? The Queen's face changed, fear flashing for the first time. This world is not empty, she whispered. It was forbidden for a reason. Before they could react, massive shapes began crawling out of the cracks, mechanical creatures, half metal, half stone, with glowing red cores. Ancient defense machines, long asleep, now awakened by the Queen's landing. Raylan raised his blaster. Guess we've got company. The Queen drew her blade, a weapon made of pure energy. Her voice was calm but fierce. We fight together, human. Raylan smirked. Didn't think I'd hear that from a queen. Side by side, human and alien fought against the ancient machines, explosions lighting up the ruins, dust and fire filling the air. Lyra hid behind a wall, eyes wide as the ground shook. One creature charged toward her. Raylan saw it and dove forward, firing until his weapon overheated. The machine exploded, throwing him back. Lyra screamed. Raylan! The Queen rushed forward, shielding the girl with her own body. When the smoke cleared, she looked at the human lying motionless among the rubble. Lyra ran to him, shaking him. Raylan! Wake up! He didn't move. Tears streamed down her face, glowing silver tears that fell onto his armor. Suddenly, the light spread again, brighter than before. The whole ruin began to shake as energy pulsed through the ground. The Queen watched in shock. Lyra, what are you doing? Lyra's voice was soft but filled with power. I'm saving him. He saved me. The light consumed them all, Queen, child, and human, until everything turned white. When the blinding light faded, Raylan felt solid ground beneath his boots again. But the ground wasn't rock or metal, it looked like glass that glowed softly from underneath, alive with slow-moving colors. He looked around. The sky was not a sky, it was a sea of swirling light stretching forever, filled with floating islands made of crystal and stone. Each island shone with its own color, blue, green, gold, violet, drifting gently through the endless air. Lyra stood beside him, staring with wide eyes. Raylan, it's beautiful. The human nodded slowly. Yeah, but beauty usually hides danger. Queen Sereth turned in a slow circle. Her armor shimmered faintly as it absorbed the strange energy in the air. This is the place our legend spoke of, she said quietly. The realm between worlds. No living being has stood here for thousands of years. They walked forward carefully. Every step echoed like a bell. Strange shapes floated nearby, transparent beings made of light, moving gracefully, whispering words none of them could understand. Raylan whispered, "Are they alive?" Sereth tilted her head. "They are the Eternals. Keepers of the gate. They guard the path between realities." One of the glowing figures drifted closer. It was tall, almost human-shaped, with eyes like small suns. Its voice was calm and deep. "You are not meant to be here, travelers. The gate opens only for those chosen by the Source." Raylan tightened his grip on his weapon. "We didn't exactly buy tickets. We were running from a war." The being looked at Lyra. "And yet, she carries the light of origin." Sereth frowned. "The light of what?" "The light of origin," the being repeated. "A spark older than your species, human and Valari alike. The child was born with it. That is why the gate answered her call." Lyra blinked, frightened. "I didn't mean to, I just wanted to save Raylan." "And you did," the being said gently. "But every choice has a price." A low rumble passed through the glowing ground. The air shimmered. From far away, a dark shape appeared, a black cloud spreading across the sky of light, swallowing color wherever it moved. Seretha's voice hardened. What is that? The Eternal turned toward the darkness. The void. The shadow that devours worlds. It follows the spark wherever it goes. You brought it here. Raylan cursed under his breath. We just can't catch a break. The Eternal's eyes flared brighter. You must leave this place before the gate collapses. The child must learn to control the light, or everything will end. Sereth stepped forward. How? Tell us. The truth lies within the core of the gate. Follow the river of light. It will test you. The being slowly faded away, leaving only the echo of its final words. They began their journey across the floating world. A bright river of energy flowed through the air like a glowing path. They stepped onto it carefully, feeling weightless as the current carried them forward. Below them, endless stars shimmered like an ocean. For a brief moment, Raylan forgot about the war, the fleet, and the death that followed him. Lyra walked ahead, her eyes glowing faintly. The river responded to her presence, brightening with every step. Feels like it knows you, Raylan said. She smiled shyly. Maybe it remembers me. Sereth watched the two of them. Her heart felt heavy. She had chased this human across galaxies to kill him, and now he was walking beside her like an ally, protecting her daughter. The universe, it seemed, had a cruel sense of irony. After some time, they reached another island, this one dark and silent. Strange black pillars rose from the ground, each one carved with glowing symbols. Raylan looked around uneasily. Doesn't look friendly. A whisper echoed in the air. Turn back. The ground cracked open. Shadows crawled out, thin, twisted shapes with glowing red eyes. They hissed and lunged toward them. Raylan fired his blaster, bolts of light ripping through the dark forms, but they reformed instantly. Sereth drew her spear, its blade burning bright. They're not real, they're memories made solid. Whose memories? Raylan shouted. Mine, she said quietly. The shadows spoke in 1,000 voices. You failed your people. You chose the human. You are unworthy of the crown. Sereth froze. Their words cut deep into her mind. She dropped to her knees, trembling. Lyra ran to her. Mother, stop listening. Raylan fired again, stepping between them. Back off, he yelled at the shadows. But they kept coming. Then Lyra closed her eyes and raised her hands. A wave of silver light burst from her palms, washing over the darkness. The shadows screamed and vanished into mist. The island became quiet again. Sereth looked at her daughter with tears in her golden eyes. You saved me, she whispered. Lyra smiled softly. You always saved me first. Raylan helped the queen stand. Whatever this place is, it wants to test our fears. Sereth nodded. Then the next test will be yours, human. They followed the river again until it ended at a great floating chamber shaped like a sphere of light. Inside, they saw moving images, memories of Earth, the Valari homeworld, and countless other species across time. Raylan stared at the images of his planet, cities burning, oceans rising, wars endless. His heart ached. A voice filled the chamber. Human Raylan Ward. You have seen death. You have given mercy to your enemy's child. Why? Raylan swallowed hard. Because she was innocent. Because someone had to stop the killing. Even if it cost you your life. He nodded. Life means nothing if we forget how to protect it. The chamber brightened. The voice spoke again, softer now. Then the gate will remember you, human. Your name will echo in the source. Sereth looked at him quietly. For the first time, there was no hatred in her eyes, only respect. The light shifted again. A bridge of crystal extended ahead of them, leading to a tall obelisk glowing with silver fire. Lyra touched her mother's hand. That's the core. I can feel it. They walked together toward the obelisk. But as they approached, the ground trembled violently. The dark cloud, the void, had found them. It poured into the chamber like liquid night, swallowing the stars. Raylan pulled Lyra behind him. Get back. Sereth raised her spear. No more running. The void's voice thundered through the realm. The light belongs to the dark. Give me the child. Raylan shouted back, over my dead body. The creature struck, a massive wave of black energy. Raylan fired, Sereth blocked, and Lyra screamed as her power erupted again, filling the chamber with blinding silver light. For a moment, everything froze. Then, silence. When the light faded, the void was gone. But so was Lyra. Raylan turned wildly. Lyra! Where is she? Sereth fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. She used the light, she opened another gate. Raylan's voice broke. Where did it take her? The Queen looked up, her golden eyes glowing with fury and fear. I don't know, she said softly. But wherever she is, we will find her. Smoke rose from the ruins of Karath. The air shimmered with heat. Pieces of metal glowed like dying stars around Raylan, Queen Sereth, and the small alien child, Lyra. The battle with the ancient guardians had ended, but peace never lasted long on this cursed moon. Raylan sat beside a broken wall, holding his injured arm. Lyra gently wrapped a strip of cloth around the wound. Her small hands glowed faintly, healing the torn skin. Raylan smiled weakly. You're getting good at that. She nodded. Mother said it's a gift from the stars. Sereth stood nearby, scanning the horizon. Her armor was cracked, her crown dimmed, but her eyes still burned with strength. She wasn't looking for enemies. She was looking for the rest of her fleet. They will come, she whispered to herself. They always come. A faint beeping sound broke the silence. Raylan looked down at his wrist communicator. The signal bar was flashing red, a coded warning. He frowned. They've locked on to our position. Sereth turned sharply. Who? Your fleet, he said. They're preparing an orbital strike. For a second, the Queen's face froze. No, they wouldn't. But she knew they would. The Valari military followed orders, even if it meant destroying their own queen. Above the planet, the flagship Valerian charged its weapons. Admiral Kale stood on the command deck, his expression cold. Target confirmed, Queen Sereth and the human. Prepare the plasma cannons. The officer hesitated. Sir, the child is with them. Kale's jaw tightened. We have our orders. Fire when ready. A bright red glow filled the ship's belly as massive plasma orbs formed, each one powerful enough to melt a mountain. Back on the surface, Raylan grabbed his bag and stood quickly. We have to move now. Sereth looked up at the sky, where thin trails of light began to form. Her voice trembled slightly. They are going to destroy everything. Not if we find cover, Raylan said, already pulling Lyra toward the tunnels. But Sereth didn't move. She was staring at the clouds, whispering something in her native language, a prayer, maybe, or a command. Then she turned to Raylan. Follow me. I know a place. They ran across the ruined city, the wind howling through the empty towers. Lightning flashed above as the first plasma strike entered the atmosphere, glowing red and white, falling faster than sound. The explosion hit miles away, shaking the ground like an earthquake. A wave of fire rolled across the landscape. Lyra screamed. Raylan grabbed her and shielded her body with his own. The Queen raised her hands, summoning a shimmering energy field around them. The air crackled with power. The flames crashed against her barrier, burning the ground to glass. She gritted her teeth. I can't hold it for long. Raylan shouted, then don't. Move. They ran again, through the fire, through the falling ash, into a hidden passage under the ruins. The tunnel led them deep underground, into a massive chamber glowing with ancient light. The walls were covered in alien symbols that pulsed softly, alive. In the center stood a circular platform made of silver stone, surrounded by floating crystals. Raylan looked around in awe. What is this place? Sereth placed her hand on the platform. An ancient gateway, built long before humans or Valari existed. My ancestors found it, but never dared to activate it. Raylan frowned. Why not? Because it leads to a world no one ever returned from, she said quietly. Lyra stepped closer to the crystals. They began to glow brighter, reacting to her presence. A beam of blue light shot upward, filling the chamber with warmth. Seretha's eyes widened. She's activating it. Raylan pulled Lyra back. Wait. What if it's dangerous? Lyra shook her head. It's calling me, Raylan. It wants to help. The light grew stronger, humming like a heartbeat. Symbols on the walls began to move, rearranging themselves into patterns that neither human nor alien could read. Then the Queen's communicator buzzed. A cold, familiar voice spoke. This is Admiral Kale. My Queen, your rebellion ends here. Sereth lifted the device slowly. Kale, you dare threaten your own ruler. You betrayed your people for a human. The Council demands justice. Raylan muttered, sounds like you've got some real loyal friends. Sereth didn't answer. She looked at the glowing gateway, then at Lyra. There's no time, she said. If that weapon hits this chamber, the whole moon will break apart. Raylan stepped forward. So we use the gate. Sereth nodded. If it works. And if it doesn't? She looked him in the eye. Then we die together. The ground shook again, harder this time. Above them, the ceiling began to crack. Pieces of stone fell as the sky turned red through the opening. The plasma strike was seconds away. Lyra ran to the center of the platform. Hold my hands. Raylan and Sereth exchanged a look, then stepped beside her. They each took one of her glowing hands. The crystals around the platform spun faster and faster until everything was a blur of light. A deep humming filled the air. Raylan felt his body lifting, weightless. The Queen's armor flared with energy. The last thing they saw was the explosion breaking through the ceiling, a wall of fire racing toward them. Then the world disappeared. Silence. Raylan opened his eyes slowly. He wasn't on the moon anymore. He stood in a vast, white space filled with floating islands of light. Streams of energy flowed like rivers across the air. Lyra was beside him, unharmed. Sereth stood a few steps away, looking around in disbelief. Where are we? Raylan asked softly. The Queen turned slowly, her golden eyes wide. This is not death, she said. This is something older. In the distance, a figure of pure light began to take shape, tall, graceful, glowing like a star. It spoke in a calm voice that echoed in their minds. Welcome, travelers. You have awakened the Gate of Worlds. Your journey is only beginning. Raylan looked at Sereth and Lyra. Guess we made it, he said quietly. Sereth nodded. Yes, but where we are now may be far more dangerous than where we came from. The light around them pulsed, as if listening. Then everything faded to white once more.